Hey, welcome to another video in my messy office. I was just outside a little while ago. I was going to try and film this outside, but unfortunately it was still a little too windy and too many of those little airplanes. It's a relatively nice day outside. We haven't had too many nice days. It's been so rainy and cloudy lately. So I think all the little aviator guys are all up in the sky getting their practice runs in and maybe even running over to the Bahamas a little bit. Anyway, this is the January image of the month video. And for those of you that are new, I started it back in, I think, September, where I decided I was going to try and post one nice image a month in a video. And I invited you to come along with me so that if you wanted to show one of your images, you're welcome to do it. I've had a few takers over the last few months, which is nice. Which leads me to one topic before I start showing what they've sent to me, I guess is a better way of saying it. And then showing you my image of the month, which, spoiler alert, is not the one that's on the opening screen there. But the point was, a few months ago, to try and get everyone to pick up their camera and go outside and try to make at least one image a month. I'm happy to see that I have a few people that have joined along, and I have someone new this month, so now we have a fourth person who's joining us. So we'll have 5 images. And in case you haven't seen the previous videos, this is not a critique video. And the reason why I don't want to critique it is for 2 big reasons. One, I don't know that I'm particularly qualified to critique other people's photos per se. I mean, I could look at them and not saying these in particular, but I could look at some images and say, well, I would have done this differently or I would have done that differently. But it could just be because that would be my style or the way I would shoot it or the way I would photograph it compared to someone else. So their images might be, the way they want them, but it might not be the way I would particularly photograph it. So therefore, that's one reason why I don't want to critique other people's images, in that it's their images. It's what they want to photograph. Which leads me to the second point of this video, and that is that there's one photographer who you always need to hold yourself up to as your gold standard. There's only one photographer that I know of who you need to compare yourself to. It's not Ansel Adams, it's not Bresson, it's not Alfred Eisenstadt, it's not, you name your favorite photographer. Who you need to hold yourself up against is yourself. That's the only person who should matter, is yourself. Compare yourself to yourself. Are you getting better? Are you learning anything? It's a little interesting because the new person who's added a photo this month, Cindy, has emailed me a couple of times and asked me a few questions. And I've tried to offer some advice without overstepping. And it's kind of hard because she's made it clear that she likes to shoot macro and she likes to have textures and shapes, which to me, for my money, as a lot of photographers will tell you, man, that's half the battle, to have a good eye. And she has a good eye. Sometimes I forget, like she asked me a question the other day about the relationship between aperture and shutter speed or something similar to that. And sometimes I forget that everybody's at a different level of their learning process and where they are in their journey. And so I can go off on these 5-paragraph tangents of, well, do this and watch this video and watch that video and on and on and on and realize that, without being critical of her, because I'm not, is that I'm just more advanced in my photographic journey, but I've been doing it a lot longer. And I've studied it a lot longer. And I've shot a lot more images. And I have a better camera and better lenses. So I should be a better, or I shouldn't say a better photographer. I should be further along in my journey and in my understanding of my own works. And it's not just her, it's the other fellows who submit it. I'm not quite as familiar with how far along they are in their journeys. I do talk to Simon a little bit. The other guys I've emailed back and forth a little bit, and that was another part of my goal of these monthly videos, and that was to try and have more of a community and get to know some of my subscribers and get them to know me. I try to answer every comment that people leave. There's been one or two snarky ones that maybe I've ignored or let them have their opinion and not necessarily respond to them. But that's pretty rare. For the most part, people have been very polite and appreciative of my videos, and I appreciate that. And so I try to answer in kind. But it makes me realize that everybody's in a different level. They're on a different path even as to what they like to photograph. And so that's why I don't like to critique other people's work necessarily. And that's why I'm telling you that it's best that you compare yourself to yourself and no one else. Are you getting better? Are you learning things? Are you progressing? Do you now understand the relationship between your ISO and your aperture and your shutter speed and how you can control the light based on any one of those three and the combination of the three to get the result that you're after? Do you understand that? Fortunately, I do, because I've been further along in my journey, that by now I sure as heck better understand that. Am I an expert in it? No, there's people that are going to really fine-tune it and know more than me, but I certainly know the basics of it, and I can understand it, and I can adjust the light based on any one of those three things, the shutter, the aperture, the ISO. I know how to do it, or a combination of the two, or all three, whatever, in other words, whatever the result. Am I shooting something where I need a fast shutter speed? Am I shooting something where when I want to really slow the shutter speed down, say a waterfall, and have a silky look in the water? I know how to do that. And I'm not sure everybody does yet who watches some of these videos. I would think the majority of people do, the vast majority. But still, sometimes I forget. My level might be advanced from some people watching these videos, and for others, I'm probably further behind than people watching these videos, and I understand that. So anyway, that's why I don't necessarily like to critique other people's work, because you should critique your own work. You should really look at your own work and try to think, am I getting better? I also think, though, it is important for you to put your work out there for other people to see it. And if they do critique it and they do have their opinions, all right, maybe you listen to it to some extent. I'm not saying that you blow it off completely, because they may make a valid point. I've mentioned my friend Tom several times, who was sort of my photography mentor before he passed away. And he would point things out to me and say, you might need to work on this, or you might need to work on that. To a large extent, he was always right. So I would take it and try to apply it. And I do watch other people's videos, and I do listen to what they say, and sometimes I try to apply it, and sometimes I don't, because it's not necessarily the way I would photograph something or my style. Anyway, I know that's a little long-winded. I appreciate you sitting through this. But that's why if you want to submit your videos, I'm not going to critique them. You critique them. Maybe, I know not everybody started the first month that I put this out, but two or three of the guys now have been with me for 3 or 4 months. Maybe they look at the first image that they put out, and maybe a year from now they go back and say, well, the one I did this month is maybe better than the one I did 12 months ago. And I'm sure I'll do the same thing. I do go back and look at images that I shot 10 or 15, 20 years ago and say, okay, I can see an improvement. And you should probably do that too. So anyway, compare yourself to yourself. All right, I've rambled on enough. Before I show the images, please like and subscribe. And hope to see you next time. And please send an image and join us for what would be the February video. Until next time, take good care.